Hold up. Hold up. Welcome back to another episode of Black Spark Cafe. It's your boy Lay Scoot, aka Anthony, aka Lemon Drop, aka 4522, aka Pew Pew. Oh, get rid of it.
And it's your girl Ari Earl, you know what I'm saying? 48 in the hips, 36 in the waist. But you know your girl just had a race last week, so now I'm already at 34 inches in the waist. Oh, yeah. And we have a special host for you guys today, and I'm going to let her introduce herself.
Hello, my name is Ebony, and I am the founder of Living Life and also the moderator of Conversations with Ebony.
You know what? When we do your thing, I'm gonna like have a halo around your head. And it's gonna be like some lights. I'm gonna do that. That's gonna be blessing. That's gonna be blessing.
That's gonna be a blessing. Yeah. Okay, thank you.
Thank blessing. You. That's what I said. Instead of blessing.
Oh,
okay, I can do that.
I thought you said blessing.
I said blessing. Well, then I realized, you know what? I probably can't say that. I gotta rewind that.
No, it's okay.
But this episode, we are gonna talk about church.
And faith. And prayer.
No, I was like just church.
Oh my goodness.
Church. But we're gonna talk about all things regarding church. So we're gonna have a good conversation because I know that religion and faith is a touchy subject, and you know, Black Spark Cafe, we known for. Well, I can't cut. This is a
pushing
rough episode.
We are known for pushing the limit.
This is a rough episode because every pause is a cuss word. So we're gonna play a game.
Well, why can't you curse?
Well, you know, out of respect for it.
Oh, out of respect for Minister Brown?
Yeah, it's going to be a little rough for me. So we're going to play a game. Every time I need y'all to fill in the cuss word in the comments. So that way it's not technically me cussing, but at least I know you understand exactly what I was trying to say.
Got it.
That's going to be a good game.
Okay.
Like it should have like a little game. Oh, it should be a drinking game. Every time I try to cuss, you should take a shot. Go ahead and do that. Because, you know, she's a different, when I was having some sidebar conversations, she's a different type of minister.
Oh, this is the type of minister that drinks communion wine Monday through Sunday.
That's every day.
Exactly.
Oh, man, I had to say. And in my head, you see me process that?
Like, I drink communion wine Monday through Sunday.
Y'all, she does not drink communion wine. I don't even think she's a drinker. I think the few times that I have, no,
not really.
You drink alcohol or just wine?
Just wine. Every now and then, like sparingly.
Okay.
Sweet?
Is it red?
Dry?
Sweet.
Red or?
Red and white.
Okay.
Is it Moscato? Oh, no.
What's wrong with Moscato?
That's like, there's so many better wines out there than Moscato.
Oh, I'm not a wine drinker.
That's like a baby wine. Yeah, we off topic.
We always off topic.
Anyway.
Would you see how she get us right together? So let's get into it. So I wanted y'all. These next couple of episodes is going to be some really good conversation, and it's going to be able to break down some things or open up some conversations. That's what we're known for, as you can remember from last season. So I wanted to talk about, going into the first topic, was about pretty much in a nutshell, you know, what it's like growing up in church. You know, do you go to church now? I know for me, I kind of grew up in a church. So I grew up in a church, and I was in church for many years. And then I switched over and started working for the church.
Okay.
And when I started working for the church, that's when, you know, you see more. And so I will say, for me personally, it kind of altered my understanding of church and how it works. So let's dig a little deeper into that, because I know a lot of our followers, they might, you know, they go to church, or they might have their own representation or their own thought process on how church works. So I wanted to ask you, like, tell us a little bit about you. Like, did you grow up in church, or was it something that, do you go to church now? You know, what should we be looking for? I need road signs. I need road maps. Give me something.
So one of the things that I did not include in my introduction is that I'm Minister Ebony Brown.
Well, you didn't, did you?
No, I did not. I just talked about Conversations with Ebony and Giving Life.
Okay.
I like to be neutral. I like for people to be who they are. around me. So when you throw out minister, they're like, oh, I can't do this, I can't do that. And I want people to be authentic and feel comfortable because I definitely believe that God meets you where you're at. But we'll talk about that later. So I did grow up in church. And my experience with growing up in church and being a PK was actually filled with a lot of different...
PK is.
Oh, a preacher's kid or a pastor's kid.
Nah, I know what a PK is.
Okay. So excuse me, if I need to break some things down, let me know because I'm going to use different abbreviations and different terminology.
You know what a PK is?
Now I do. So I grew up as a PK, a pastor's kid. And some of my experiences weren't too good. They were actually filled with a lot of trauma. What I experienced in the church was the leaders saying that you ought and should be a particular way, but then was harshly criticized or judged or ridiculed for not being the way that they told us to be. So almost kind of like this perfect, don't drink, don't have sex, don't look like a hoochie, like don't do all this. You know, the laundry list goes long, you know. So growing up in that type of environment and that type of stress did not create a good image for me. So as I grew up, I actually stopped going to the organized church.
Okay.
Like the organized facility. But I never forsake assembling with believers.
Okay.
So, you know, the Bible talks about that. Scripture says, do not forsake the assembly of believers. Like, continue to constantly fellowship. So what I did was I actually created my own environment where I feel like God could dwell, and it was called God's Chosen Ministries. And so there was like a comfortable, non-judgmental environment where people could develop a personal relationship through the art of worship. So through like praise dancing or in liturgical dance. So that's kind of how I navigated through that.
Say it again now.
Liturgical dance.
Okay.
So
I'm gonna put it down at the bottom. Thank you, because you know, for all us that gotta Google stuff, I'm gonna put it down at the bottom. Go ahead, continue.
So that's how I kind of created that environment and that atmosphere. That's what inspired me to create something different and to go beyond just the four walls and actually meet people where they're at. Like, this was on a college campus. You have so many different things going on. So actually doing ministry work on a college campus was very humbling. You know, I had, you know, people coming to me, Ebony, pray for me. And these would be people who you would least expect asking you to pray for them. Yeah. And I thought that was so amazing because that's how God is to us. That's how I believe God is to us. If you're over here, he'll meet you there. If you doing whatever, he'll meet you in that place.
Okay. I do. So let me ask you this, because I know, like, so almost you like the modern day, like Kanye West, almost in a nutshell, because he pretty much that's what he's been doing lately now. Because I don't know if anybody, I know his album just came out, and it's getting mixed reviews. So let's talk about that. So being on campus, being on, you know, in college, you know, is it something where, because the way how you are ministering, that's the right way to say it, ministering instead of preaching, right?
Correct.
Okay. So the way how you are ministering to the college kids and you're meeting them there, so do you have more of an open mind? Like, are you more like of a, like, okay, you know what, this happened, but, you know, you're not forsaken more of a kind of a situation? Or is it more like, do you lead them like, well, listen, this might be out of my hands, you might need to go to this church, or, you know, sit down and do, like, how does that work? College is difficult. And then it sounds like you were meeting people really at a crossroads, probably where you have more of an impact than you probably realize.
While you're also trying to grow yourself in that situation.
Yes, absolutely. So one of the things that I did not do and that I don't believe
I know I don't look deep, but I'm deep.
No,
yeah,
absolutely.
I'm good.
That was good. So one of the things that I don't do is I don't convict other people. Like, I don't feel like I should go and I have the authority to correct people, to correct behavior. Like, hey, sis, I don't think you should be doing this. Like, I feel like that's up to God to speak to that person or to have that still small voice or that conversation to where he'll correct them in whatever way. Like, maybe something may occur in life and they may have an epiphany and like, I need to change. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. I just facilitated love. Okay. Love and acceptance. Because I feel like where there's love, and I feel like God can dwell in love. So
I like that. I like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So let me ask you this. So you don't have any kids?
No kids.
Okay. Not yet.
Not yet.
Okay. So would you? So you know what? Let's kind of break it down. I think that's probably the best way to do it. Is kind of break it down section by section. So let's start with ministering on campus, so to speak.
Okay.
So, like, what was your? Well, I know you can't really tell us all the crazy, because I'm pretty sure there's like, you know, that conversation of like unprotected sex, that conversation of like, I know maybe I'm just trying to run through all the different scenarios, like abortions, like all that things. Is those some of the things that just kind of came your way as you're trying to graduate?
I navigated people, like I help people through suicidal ideation, suicidal thoughts, abortion, sex, relationships, personal issues at home, issues with identity. So I deal with a wide range of different things.
So what did you go to school for?
Psychology.
So you had a double dose of being, you know, ministering to people on campus, because by then, at that point, you weren't actually Minister Brown, but you still held that title of, I mean, that's what people knew you for.
Yes.
Wait, so what were you in? If you were a minister, were you like Club Ebony?
No. Actually, no.
What was your nickname? Ebs?
Nope. Just Ebony.
Just Ebony.
That's it.
Everybody just knew you. So for those that don't know, I actually went to school with Ebony as well. So she was everything that she does speak about, you know, God's chosen and everything. That was my outlet for when I was in school, just watching them dance and being able, like, I think at one point they did a mime, and so I was able just to like help them with their makeup, but just being able to see the dancing. Is what brought it in. And I know, you know, at one point in our sorority that we were in, we did like a Sunday worship thing as well. And that was because I didn't go to church when we were in college. That wasn't something that I did. So for me, I needed a way to connect.
I didn't go to church when I was in college.
Well, no, I didn't. But a lot of my friends did go, and I didn't go because I never felt at home with a lot of the churches that they went to. And so them having her like making that and creating that space for me to feel comfortable and listen to, because I connected through music. Like I was on gospel choir and my friends were in Faith, which was our praise team through Missouri State. And that was how I connected. So being friends with her, that was how I connected. It was just being able to see her dance, and specifically like seeing her and one of my other really good friends.
What type of dancer was it? Were you twerking for Jesus?
No, we were.
We were
not twerking for Jesus.
Who is it? Not Chameleon. Is it Chameleon who twerk for Jesus?
They have a song called Twerk for Jesus.
Yeah, it's a song called. I play it. You know what? I'll do that for the intro. Because I heard it in the car and I'm driving out. Oh, Jesus, it's a sin. Turn it off. Turn it off. Turn it off. And my wife was like, ooh. And I was like, no, turn it off.
Wow.
Turn it off.
So, yes, that was, you know, that was really how we kind of connected.
So, and I guess it's interesting to hear that, because I guess, you know, like you said, like, as you're trying to go through college, you're already trying to you're stressing on classes. If you played sports, you know. So I guess what we'll do is we'll dig a little deeper as far as like, do you think that was beneficial? Let's round that back to that. So,
okay.
Era, where you were going to go with something else as far as with kind of, I think you had a passage or something you wanted to kind of.
Yeah, I kind of want to know your guys' reaction. So as I was searching through just through like mental health and
Oh, speaking of Apple products, so
Apple products.
all new.
Hey.
See that? Boom. So shout out to AT&T. His name is JK. I always remember because like, just kidding. But that's the AT&T guy that hooked us up. So everything that we're recording now is through AT&T Uverse. And I got the new phone, everything. So he came.
And watch and everything.
Yep, he came to the house and set everything up.
Oh, yeah.
Shout out to AT&T for coming to houses. So basically,
don't do that book.
Yeah, so Comcast. But I just wanted to touch on church and like mental health, because like she said, you know, she went to school for psychology, and for me, I struggled from the time that I came into school with my mental health. And so for me, like I said, music and being able to see dance, that was how I connected. And so
we should do like another mental health issue, like a deep mental health issue.
Yeah, definitely. But I was going to read this. This is just a passage. So the article was called Church and Mental Health, What Did the Numbers Tell Us? But as I read the first passage, like the first section of the article, I was just like, I wonder what everyone else thinks. So it says most of us know someone who is in counseling, on medication, or has even taken his or her own life as a result of mental illness. There are many difficult issues for Christians to talk about, and mental health would certainly be near the top of the list. Yet, this is a conversation the church needs to have. Suicide may be one of the most complex and demanding topics of all. Over the past few years, the discussion has felt forced, especially when the event is connected to high-profile suicides of prominent Christian leaders or their family members and close associates. While the circumstances in these situations are varied, the question of mental health always comes up. And when we talk about mental illness and suicide, it immediately creates a unique challenge for believers. The question is, why? Why is it uniquely challenging for us to address issues often associated with mental illness? And that is, for myself in the church, I felt like that was something that really I struggled with a lot, because I would prefer to talk to a therapist than go to church and talk about my problems at church. Something about feeling, kind of embarrassed when they're like, does anyone need someone to pray? I don't want to walk up to the front of the church and have someone pray with me or anything like that. That's not something that, I wanted. I specifically wanted to be able to talk to a therapist. And so I struggled being like, I can't go to church because people would say, oh, you're crazy, or you're this or you're that, because I would rather talk to a therapist, or I would rather take medications. So what is y'all's reaction for that?
So my personal opinion on that is that a lot of people don't understand, like when it comes from the church, we take humanity, like we forget the fact that we're human. And so because we are human, we're gonna have different errors and flaws, but that doesn't mean that that's a negative thing. It may be an uncomfortable thing, it may be unpleasant, you may feel discomfort within being human at times, but there's nothing wrong with the way we were created.
Okay.
And so going back to that, sometimes like our bodies are decaying at different rates. And so because our body decays at different rates, other people are going to have different issues. Someone may have cancer, someone may have diabetes, someone may have mental health issues, but that doesn't mean that they have a lack of faith. That doesn't mean that they're not praying enough. That doesn't mean that God is not there. And I say those things because that was the response I got when I started speaking about the mental health issues that I was going through from the church. Well, can you pray for my mind? Well, I'm struggling with this. Well, they diagnosed me with this mental disorder, and I got, so you don't have enough faith? You're a minister. Like, why is this even a problem? You don't believe that God can heal you? And so going to that aspect of healing, I believe that sometimes our healing may not manifest on earth, but it may manifest in heaven. When we transition over, and so who's to say that the manifestation of your healing doesn't display in other ways? Doesn't mean that the illness or whatever it is completely written from your body. Is it maintenance? Is it going to counseling? In the Bible, it speaks about counsel. It speaks about going among people. It speaks about the renewing of your mind. But does it have to be this certain prescribed way?
So let me answer that, because I love that response, and I feel like had I had somebody like that in church with, or not even in church, but on campus or something like that, I think that would have had a kind of a better outcome for me. You know what I mean? So I like the way how you were saying, as far as like, I guess, and I think that's where I've always realized that a lot of people assume that because you hold that title, that you don't have any afflictions. And you are not supposed to go through stuff. But then when you realize like they're human, you know what I mean? Like they're human too. So they're going to go through it. And then like, I thought, one of the things that I thought was pretty cool. I can remember this day. One pastor at the old church that I went to, I was coming up to him and I was like, hey man, I'm struggling. I'm trying to go through. He said, hey, brother, like I really want to help you, but I'm going through my own stuff right now. So today is just not the day. You know what I mean? And I was shocked. You know what I mean? Because I was like, can you do that? Like, I don't think you can delay me. Like, you can't put me on pause. You know what I mean? Like, you can't put me on pause. But I was like, well, I get it though. Like, I understood. I understood where he was coming from. So let me ask you this. So as you kind of break it down a little bit more, because that was a lot
That was deep.
That was very deep, and I think a lot. Even with the article that you were writing, like, do you think that people in church take mental health seriously?
They do not. They do not understand that a lot of mental health issues are physiological.
Okay.
Like there are literally chemical imbalances in people's brain. It's not something that you just automatically think away.
Mm-hmm.
It's not something that automatically goes away. It is things that are ingrained in our brain, especially with being African Americans. Mm-hmm. We've experienced a lot of trauma, like through history, and so that trauma is literally ingrained in our genes. Like the studies and research show that transgenerational trauma lies within African Americans. You know, so we are still experiencing what slavery did to us, even in the present day. Mm-hmm. So that still has an impact on our brains and how we think, and a lot of our belief systems that's passed down through culture, through our family systems and things like that. So we don't even acknowledge that how big of a role that our beliefs and our biology plays into our mental health, and a lot of people don't know that.
And I've experienced that too as well, where I've had, you know, I'm sure we all have, you know, that family member, we've heard of someone that has that family member that may be struggling with, like, you know, different type of mental illnesses, whether it's, you know, I feel like people automatically think depression and suicide, but what about, you know, that person that is schizophrenic or that does have bipolar and that type of stuff, and automatically, you know, you have, which you love them to death, but you do have those older people in your family that are very rooted, and they're just like, that's because they, you know, they don't have this, you know, they're not going to church enough, or they're lost, or they're this and that. But it's like, okay, but you can pray and read the Bible as much as you want to, but sometimes, and I like that, you know, that it is truly a chemical imbalance, because some people feel like that is all fake, and that the medications that you're taking, you know, if you didn't take medications, you would actually be healthier, that the prescription companies are actually pumping you with stuff that's making you sicker. And so it's like, and especially for someone, you know, that may be schizophrenic, that could really traumatize them, where they're like, well, do I take my medicine? Do I not take my medicine? Yeah. Should I pray? Is this company really, like, are they drugging me? And then when you're going through all of that mental turmoil, and then you go to church, and then someone else is telling you you're wrong for, you know, going to see this person, it's like, how do you deal with? I would freeze up. I would completely, you know, lose faith in both. And then now I'm completely lost. Yeah. Completely lost without anything. So, and, you know, I also think that therapy it's one of those things, like, for me, I'm more of like a smart aleck. So when people are like, why do you go to therapy when you could just go to church? And I'm like, but didn't God put therapists here? Like, he obviously equipped this person to learn, to be able to, and, you know, just because I'm going to therapy and I'm talking to this person, God is hearing this while I'm there.
Well, you know what's always confused me? How come there are not therapists in church? Like, I feel like, you know, like you had your school therapist, you know, so that you can go talk to, because essentially school is tough, especially nowadays, which I think I said that on last season, like, you know, it's already difficult for you to go to school, you know, in middle school and elementary school, but you're in school and then you realize, okay, well, I'm having problems. I should be able to go talk to my therapist. But then you get to college, those aren't, you know what I mean? Like, those opportunities aren't there. Yeah. So, you know, it sounds like you guys had the ability to be able to, or well, you had the ability to have somebody that was there to kind of still course you all the way up. Because I get it. Like, a lot of people say, oh, once you turn 18, that's it. Yeah. Excuse me, you're an adult, you're grown, you don't need any more mentoring. But I have told, like, me and my wife have said, like, listen, if the kids want to live with us until they're like 23, 24, that's perfectly fine. They can live in the house, they'll live in the back. But ideally, you know, because you're still growing and maturing. Definitely. So, like, why don't you need guidance, you know what I mean, still kind of growing all the way up as you're going to college. Yeah. So let's do this. Let's take a break, because you said something about African Americans and what's ingrained in us as far as from the slavery. So I want to dig a little deeper into that. So we're going to take a quick break, and then we'll come back, and you guys will get to meet Minister Ebony a little bit more, and we'll have some more. Well, you know, Arrow's still here. She, you know, whatever. You know, I don't think she's going to go anywhere. I'll be here, but we'll have some more back. So we'll be right back.
welcome back, everybody. Hopefully you guys enjoyed the break. So, you were kind of touching on mental health and, and I would like to get just a little bit more of your perspective and, you were talking about being deeply ingrained in Black people. Yes. So can you expound upon that a little bit more?
Yes. So the trauma we experienced back in slavery is still ingrained in us. That whole perception of, them running medical experiences on Black people and them not wanting to take medication or them not trusting the mental health professionals out there because the trust was broken throughout generations. So we're still perpetuating that same perception and that same mentality. And the stigma is so heavy. Like, as being African American, that's already our targeted identity for us. Like, in society, we're not accepted. We go through a lot of microaggressions. We go through a lot of different discrimination and just a variety of different things. And so as it relates to mental health, it's almost like another demerit. It's like another mark against us, to have something that we're struggling with. And so we always want to perpetuate and be strong. And we think our strength is in not getting help, is in not seeking other people to help us through the things that we're going through. We feel like we have to deal with it alone because we can't trust anybody due to our own personal experiences and then things that happen, generations back. So we have to acknowledge that, but nobody talks about that. Nobody has conversations like that. Like, that's absolutely real.
So it sounds like more, because I know when I was growing up, it was, I was raised military, and I think you were raised military too. So for black boys, Black men, it was like, you're not supposed to cry. Like, Black men don't cry. You know what I mean? Like, suck it up, don't cry. So is that kind of like what you're kind of...
Yes, okay. It's perpetuating that because we want to protect our Black men. Our Black men are so targeted. Like, we look at Trayvon Martin, we look at those high-profile cases, and we see our Black men literally being shot down and killed or being thrown in jail. And so you have to perpetuate this almost perfect persona in order to not be targeted. So, of course, you can't cry. Of course, you can't break down, but that's not realistic. That's not a part of the human experience to have the expectation of someone not to cry or express an emotion or a feeling because we were created that way. So rather than say, don't cry, just say, hey, baby, wait until you're in a safe space. Like, what is a safe space for you to express those feelings and those emotions? When is it a safe space for you to cry? Like, I would hope it would be a safe space for you to cry with your partner or your spouse or a close friend, like, to be able to express and let those emotions out, or seek therapy if it's that deeply rooted. And if it's out of the realm of just getting familiar or support from a loved one,
I feel like I feel as though, like, for Black men, it's not okay for them to go and seek therapy. Like, it's not okay for them to have anything wrong mentally because they are supposed to be, the leader of the household. And if they're not okay mentally, then your household is crumbling. And, does he go to church? Does he do this? Like, it's just not okay for them to even want to go to therapy. And a lot of them will push that off completely because they don't want, this sign of weakness for them.
Right. But that's a false belief. Because in a partnership, like, if you're in a partnership, it's when you're weak, they're strong. So, there are going to be times even where your spouse, like being a Black man, if you are in a heterosexual relationship, let's say that, where that person, or you're not in a heterosexual relationship, whatever relationship you choose to be in, that person may go through some things in their life where they need to be held up by the other person. And so it's not that your house is going to crumble. Like, if you believe that, then your house is going to crumble. But if you believe that, hey, this person is going through this transition, they need to be supported more through this experience, like this persona of the leadership or the head of the house, then you support them and you uplift them in that. They talk about that in the Bible. Like, it's just not, oh, this is the umbrella and because this is crumbling. Like, that's a false belief because we are in control of our thoughts, our feelings, and our actions. So when you understand the authority that you have in that, you have so much more power than what you think you have. You're not as helpless as you think you are. So then the beliefs begin to change. The erroneous beliefs or the irrational beliefs, begin to change. And I'm a firm believer of that. But if you're not taught that and you don't understand that, then things will crumble because you're allowing them to.
So let's talk about that, because you know, and I can only go off of my inner circle. I know we all operate the same. Like, so, you know, I wasn't taught that. So I wasn't taught, you know, as far as to cry. So I didn't, you know, there was a period of time where, because my entire family was military. My mother was military. My father was military. So, you know, to speak about emotions was not necessarily a sin in our family. It was just like, tough up, keep it moving, kind of. Mm-hmm. So I think that it did build something in me to become emotionless. So, and that's where I'm at now, where like a lot of people and people that know me, they're like, oh, you have no emotions. Like you are cold and you just like, but I'm like, no, I just wasn't built that way. So how do we, even to this day, like, how do we come back and establish, especially as a Black man, like, how do you come back and try to establish that? And then two, how is that detrimental to our health? Because now, right, if you are going to take the time out to try and help me, you know, regain my emotions, gain understanding, like, is that going to be just a huge wave of it coming all at once? And then is that going to cause a mental illness? Because now I'm like, everything that's repressed is now coming back. It's coming back full circle. I'm dealing with it. Like, what do you think about that?
So that's when you seek professional help, when it's that deep. Okay. So that's when you go into your safe space and you seek professional help. And within seeking professional help, they'll take you and navigate you through that journey so you're not feeling that huge wave. Mm-hmm. So you're not, that fear of like, oh, it's all going to come at me like at once, like a flood. Like, it's not going to happen like that. Like, you know, when I actually took the time to navigate and work through the experiences that I had, my traumas and just the negative beliefs that I had growing up as a result of just going through a lot of different things, it didn't come like a wave. We literally have been dealing with it one thing at a time, you know, as it comes up, you know, finding techniques and ways to cope. Like, that's what happens in therapy. Like, they help you cope before you, like, actually dive into the deep stuff. Okay. But when you don't find that help and you're just dumping and you're regurgitating or ruminating over, which means to just think about constantly what your experiences were, then that causes you to have mental distress. It doesn't necessarily cause a mental illness. It just causes a lot of discomfort and a lot of stress. And so going back to one of the points that you were saying, can you get back to that place as a Black man of having emotions? Yes, you can. You just have to be able to sit with yourself and sit with those feelings and say, hey, this is how I'm feeling today. Even write it down in a journal. Journaling is like really crucial. It's like really beneficial. Like, no one has to know you're journaling.
I got chicken scratch, so
and it's okay. Even if you put it on your iPhone, there's so much different technology out here. Like, you have journal apps, you know, where people can't see it. If you like journaling, man, I'm upset today. Let me explore that.
So, but where? So where should I go? Like, so because, like, you know, that's where you're looking at it. Like, I would feel like the church would be a place to go, but then, like, not my new church, but like my old church. You know, I'm literally looking and I'm seeing, like, you know, they're constantly like, man is the head of the household. You need to make sure you take care. You do this, you do that. So how, like, am I looking for someone in church? Like, what if I've grown up in church and this is what I do on a constant basis? So am I going to be that person? Like, do I need to kind of like pinpoint and find somebody in the church, or like, how do I establish that safe place? And I'm already in church. That should be my anchor, because technically it is. So how do I kind of find that ray of light?
So the great thing about counseling that I love is there are like Christian counselors out there. Like right now, I'm going to a Christian counselor. I'm going to a Christian therapist. She is phenomenal. I enjoy it, how we integrate my faith, and we also integrate the practicalness. I made that word up, by the way, practicalness.
I put a bounce ball on it.
Okay,
yes.
Perfect. Okay. How practical it is to know the different theories and like just interventions, integrating with faith and spirituality. So that's what I would say. Like, if you're a Christian and you really identify with your Christian beliefs, go to Christian counseling. Okay. You know, go seek it out. Actually, go interview an array of therapists and see what you like, because maybe what you identify as, they can help you identify with too. You have to find that person that like fits with you. Like, some things I believe are outside of the realm of the church, and I think when it comes to Black church specifically, we don't say, hey, that's out of the realm of my expertise. I need to refer you out to someone else.
Okay.
That's the issue. We try and take it on and say, as a minister or as a leader or as clergy, we try and take it on and say, hey, I can carry those burdens for you. You know, there was a time where I dealt with someone dealing with suicide, and I dealt with it right then and there because they, you know, I asked the questions like, how severe is it? You know, but I also referred them to somebody else. You know what I'm saying? Because that was out the realm of my expertise. Like, I'm literally in college and I have not had crisis intervention training. Maybe now because I'm in graduate school now for clinical mental health. So now I'm better equipped to handle it. But back then I'm like, oh my God, just Lord, give me the words to say so that I can comfort her in this moment. And you know, he did just that. And so she's still alive today. They're still alive today and they're still functioning. They're doing well. And so I just think referring out is the best thing. But we don't have that in the church.
So what about church hurt? Because, you know, that's like the biggest thing. Because I know, I now understand that there is life after church hurt and you can go back after church. Because I've experienced it. I don't know if you've...
I don't know. I wouldn't say that I've experienced church hurt. Not necessarily, not me. But I was also away from it for so long. And I came back to it in my own way. I came back to it in my own way. And now I'm all about it.
Church hurt.
You got all these tattoos.
Piercing.
But church hurt is real. It is so real. And I believe that's why a lot of people don't go to church. And I'll be transparent and say for a long time, I didn't step foot. You could not pay me $200, $1 million to step back in the black church. Like, you could not. And even to this day, it's some dissonance with the church. It's still some, I feel a little uncomfortable. I'm like, is this a safe space? Because the hurt and the trauma that I experienced within church, like being abused by the clergy, like seeing them beat on their wives, like while being a pastor's kid, like being exposed to that level of dysfunction. You know, that hurt deep. You know, dealing with it at home, having to be perfect, you know, like everything's okay, and then it's really not. You know, and growing up and being in church like that hurt really just kept me away from the church, which is why I created my own form. So going back to Kanye, I understand what Kanye is doing. Like, I can relate to Kanye. Like, listening to his album, I had a little tear come down my face, literally, because I'm like, I understand what he's doing. I understand what he's creating. He's creating a safe space for people to come in and experience God and experience love and experience the manifestation of the Holy Spirit.
How do you feel about the comments that have been made about him being mentally ill and him going from, you know, doing hip hop and doing all this to going to now he's trying to do this and he's asking, you know, they're called the samples. That's who the choir is, you know, like while we're practicing, you know, while we're making this album, no sex. If you're not married, no sex, you know, that type of stuff. And just like him going back. I mean, Kanye says sometimes some off the wall stuff. And so, but I mean,
not sometimes.
But all the time. But, you know, I do feel like people that, I mean, those are the most creative people, the people that you think are off the wall. But sometimes I'm like, is it that they're off the wall, or is it that we're not on their level? We're not thinking the way that they are.
So a lot of people are closed-minded and really judgmental and critical as if someone cannot change. You know, it's a dichotomous thinking, and it just means black and white thinking. It's either this way or one way. There's no shade of gray. Like, that is huge.
Unless you're colorblind, because I'm colorblind.
That is huge within a body of believers, like thinking it ought and should be this particular way or that particular way, which is why a lot of people don't go to church now. A lot of millennials, you don't see them in the church because of that, because of just that way of thinking. And so if we try and fit Kanye in this box and try and box God in and what he can and cannot do, you know what I'm saying? Like, we're limiting him. We're limiting God. That's what we're saying. And speaking about Kanye's mental health issues, like, he's admitted that he's had mental health issues. I would encourage him to go see a therapist regularly. Like, go dive deep into what those issues are so that he can help navigate himself through his faith, as well as in a practical sense, and juxtapose them together.
It's interesting that you said a lot of millennials don't go to church, because I know that there's a lot of millennials that nowadays are going to church. And I know back when I was in school, they called it like you know, people would say, oh, you're a part of the new age religion, you're a new Christian, and that type of thing, because it's not gospel music. And, you know, there's a lot of gospel music nowadays that has even hip hop elements in it, like Kanye's album. And I think it was like Mary did a song that everybody was like, this is like trap music, gospel music, you know. Right. There's a lot of songs that are like that.
So I can download it.
Aliana has it. She loves it.
Right now.
But there are those things, and so there are a lot of millennials that do go to church, and you know, the church that I frequent a lot, which is actually in Orlando, which is Journey Church. They have millennial pastor. Everyone at the church is very like millennial based. I mean, they have different age groups across the board. But being able to be in that space, and that's why college was so great for me, to see people that are my age that love God. And it wasn't that my parents were like, you know, we don't do that. We just moved around so much. So it was like they introduced me to it. And when I was ready, I came and I found what fit for me.
Okay.
So do you think you successfully got through college because you had that ability to be able to kind of have, you know,
I think that definitely helped. I think that now more so than ever, now that I am out of college, because I'm able to see like, wow, I can't believe I made it through college with everything that I was doing.
Right.
And now more so than ever, like we have nightly conversations where we're just talking and where I'm going through things and knowing now that like, hey, I have these people that I can talk to that, you know, and I know that even for me, you know, she is one of the people that I call. Like if I know that, hey, I need just some prayer. I just need somebody to just talk to me, because I'm not like, I'll be the first person when anyone asks me, I'm like, I've never read the Bible. I've just never read it. I've tried. I've tried a million times, but I've never read it. I can't get through it. I'm like in the beginning, like I can't. So that's just me. But I can listen to church on a podcast all day long. I can listen to it. I can feel it. I can be connected. But being able to have that person like a therapist or like someone that I can confide in and talk to, that's my way of talking to God. Even though I'm physically talking to a person, I feel like if I'm talking to this person, God is hearing me. Therefore, I can be healed in that moment.
And I think one of the difficult struggles that I was like, you know what, like I am, I guess, and me and my, you know, I call them my best friends. I call them my brothers, but. Like, I know one of them, he takes it from a whole different approach. You know, Joshua, he takes it way deep. But then you have, like, the other ones, like, we're realists. You know what I mean? Like in our heads, like, how many times have this Bible, like, there's so many different versions of King James, New Living Bible. So now I'm sure somebody wrote something in there. You know what I mean? Right. And that's why it's difficult for me, because I'm like, well, somebody wrote something. If we're writing God's word, somebody can slide something in there, like, you know what, like, thou shalt not eat pork. You know what I mean? Like, because I don't like pork. You know what I mean? I don't like pork for everybody
bacon.
else. You know what I mean? Like,
right. Don't eat bacon.
Yeah, and that's why for me and my, you know, and it's difficult. Like, even my kids, I'm like, listen, if you want to go to church, you want to go to church. Well, you got to go to church if I got to go to church. Because if I'm going, that's where the car going. Yeah, you know what I mean? But in a sense, like, my kids talk to me about it. You know what I mean? And I'm actually impressed, because they know more than I do, you know, and I'd be like, Lord help me. But,
so kind of going back to your point of like reading the Bible and just connecting with it, there's so many different scholarly books out there that has the word in it and has it interpreted and broken down to where you can understand it. So if you want to know more about grace, if you want to know more about the promises of Abraham and Abraham's lineages, and you want to learn more about Judaism, or you want to learn about a variety of different things as it relates to the word, there's so many different resources out there outside of just the actual Bible.
And you're not talking about chicken noodle soup?
I'm not talking about chicken noodle soup.
Listen, I had all the chicken noodle soup.
I'm not just only talking about chicken noodle soup. That could be a really good reference. You know what I'm saying? A really good point. Again, going back to my point of God meeting you where you're at. So you just have to navigate and find where do you want God to meet you? Like, where do you want that meeting place to be? Do you want it to be with that close friend? Do you want it to be sitting down in your quiet space, in your safe space, reading that book? Like, where do you want it to be? Do you want it to be when you go to organized church and you fellowship and it's, you know, communal worship or corporate worship? You know, where do you want that space to be? And it's completely up to the individual.
Interesting. I think, you know, and just kind of moving a little bit more with if you feel like someone is having like a mental breakdown and they are taking medication, do you feel like at that point they need to call their medical provider if they're having like an anxiety attack or something like that? Or is that a moment for you to pray about that? Is that a moment for you to pick and choose? Like, is this a praying moment or is this a medication moment?
So should the first medicine be prayer? Like I did it.
Mm-hmm. Should the first medicine be prayer? So for me, how I would handle it, I would be praying automatically while I'm on the phone with them. Because I am trained in mental health, like because I'm receiving training in mental health as a future psychotherapist. Like if one of my friends calls me and they're having a panic attack, I deal with the panic attack. You know, I'm like, okay, let's do some deep breathing. Okay, I understand that this is what's going on, but let's put it in a box right now. Let's take a deep breath. Let's close our eyes. Let's go through this exercise really quick. So I'm supporting them in that moment and focusing on that. Not, girl, you tripping. What's wrong with you? Let's pray. Come on, right now. Come on, grab hands. Let's speak in the tongues. No, I'm not.
That's intimidating.
I'm not dismissing the anxiety. I'm not dismissing the depression. I'm not dismissing the schizophrenic symptoms or the symptoms of bipolar. I'm not negating their feelings. I'm like, man, while I can really identify with that, must be really hard for you. But again, that's where you get your trained professionals. So there again, I say you go back to your trained professionals. So because I'm in training, I know how to respond to people. And I know how I want to be responded to when I'm in a crisis situation.
So do you think, now let me ask you this, as you were getting, when you were working to become a minister, was that incorporated in the training?
It was not.
Or is it, so it is something totally separate?
It's something totally separate that I decided to do because I saw the disconnect.
Okay.
I saw the disconnect, so I brought it together.
And so you brought it together with, you said, Giving Life.
Yes.
So you want to tell us a little bit more about that?
Yeah, Giving Life is a nonprofit organization that equips people with the tools for emotional and mental wellness. And so we also want to change the narrative within the minority community, especially the Black community, about mental health and like reducing the stigma and things like that. So encouraging people and providing them a safe space to get psychoeducation as well as support through that journey and through that process. So it's just now starting, and so I'm really excited in the direction that it's headed in.
Do you have any profiles or anything they can follow?
Yes, you can follow me on Giving Life Inc. on Instagram, and you can also look at givinglifeinc.org for more information. And we also have a Facebook page, Giving Life Inc. as well.
And any events coming up that you want to?
Yes, we have an event coming up November 16th. It's called Paint for Mental Health Awareness at Paint Like You Mean It. So I really want you to connect and go out and help us raise funds for our programming, like our mental wellness symposium, where we talk about different topics related to mental health and bring in professionals to address those topics. So that's a really good program that we have.
I know we're working on EB Care, so that's something we were trying to do our own nonprofit to kind of be able to give back. So we'll definitely try to figure out how to partner.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Link up. Yeah. Let me know.
Because we've been doing, what's the show? Mental Growth. Yeah. And she does mental. That's how I learned all my mental health. Because before that, I'm just out here in these streets.
Walking around barefoot.
Okay.
I'm barefooter. Because you got to get grounded.
You want to get grounded.
Oh, okay.
So you want to talk more about where to get help?
Yeah.
Okay, let's talk about that. So you can go on psychology.com today. So psychologytoday.com, I'm sorry. And you can look specifically up in your zip code or your area code, and you can find different therapists and different things like that. Like you can call them and get their rates. Each therapist or clinician is different. You can talk to somebody that is a licensed mental health professional, like in marriage and family therapy. You can find someone who has a licensed clinical social worker. So there's a variety of different clinicians that you can look into.
And all of these, you have to have health insurance, or can you specify?
No, you can do out of pocket. So if you want to look for out of pocket services or free resources, Google is your best friend. So just look to Google, and if you call another mental professional, they're actually ethically obligated to refer you. Say, hey, I may not be able to cover your sliding scale. Do you have any referrals for me? Can you refer me out to someone else?
And where can people find you and your services?
You can find me at ebonycbrown.com. That's my own personal website. And you can also find me on Facebook at Ebony Brown. And you can just reach out. You can direct message me. And on Instagram, it's simply E90. You can just direct message me if you have any questions, if you want to talk about spirituality, if you want to talk about mental health. You know, whatever you want to talk about, I'm here to talk about or point you in the right direction on where you should go.
I follow you on the EB page. And I can follow you on my personal page because, it'd be wild. And I just be saying stuff. You know what I mean? So,
whatever you feel comfortable with.
Cool. So listen, this has been a really good episode. We told y'all there's going to be some laughter in the beginning, and then when we got into the season, it's going to be some good topics. And I think this is a really good topic.
Thank you.
And I'm pretty sure we could probably talk on days for this one too.
Yeah, definitely.
So we'll probably do an open panel discussion. And would you mind maybe doing radio with us one day?
Absolutely.
Next week? Okay, because now we'll be on EB Radio the following, so not this Thursday.
Yeah,
the next Thursday. So after this airs, the next Thursday we'll be on EB Radio. And that's kind of the same thing. So this gives you a little bit more dose of Black Spark Cafe. And maybe we can do some panel discussions in the chat. I know I'd be posting some of the wild, funny memes in there. But, let's kind of use it for helping people too.
Yes, let's do that. Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
It was forced. Just somebody probably said that I probably needed help because black men don't cheat and black men don't cry.
Ooh.
Say it with me now.
Wow.
But listen, so for all the information with Ebony, make sure you check out. We'll put her information at the end of the episode and in the description below.
And on Instagram.
And on Insta.
And on
Facebook. And we are on, let's hit them, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, Spotify, iTunes, Google. I don't know why, because nobody.
Some people got Google phones. Google Chrome. Chromebooks.
Yeah, whatever. And we are now on iHeartRadio. Finally, that took a long time, but now we're on iHeartRadio. Isn't that it?
I don't know.
Okay.
No,
whatever. But be sure to
she was shaking her head like, yeah.
But be sure to check back with us. And then this has been another episode of Black Spark Cafe. Make sure you tell your mama, your daddy,
cousin, and them,
grandma with one leg, grandma with no legs.
Dang!
Grandma with no legs. She in the wheelchair.
No.
You know what? She might have twerked her legs, or she twerked for Jesus and her legs.
For Jesus and her legs fell out. Ow.
All right, man. Y'all have a good one.